On this episode of WNIN Newsmakers, we'll talk to the new leadership at the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership, new CEO and former Mayor Lloyd Winnecke. Welcome to WNIN Newsmakers. I'm April Nading. Today we'll learn more about EREP, the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership. Our guest is former Mayor Lloyd Winnecke and new CEO of EREP. So thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk first about what's the transition been like going from mayor to CEO?
Well, I tell you what, it's gone really well. I've relearned that for the most part, people in the private sector sleep better than those in the public sector. My sleep has improved dramatically, so that's fun. It was kind of interesting. The last few weeks in the mayor's office, the text messages slowed down, the phone calls slowed down, the emails slowed down, and so that was all interesting as we were working through the transition. We had a great transition period with Mayor Terry and her team. We met basically once a week from the time the election was over through her inauguration, and worked very closely with she and her transition team to make sure they had all the information they need to hit the ground running, and I think they've done that. So, and so a lot of people were like, well, are you gonna take a month or two off? And I'm like, no. I started January 2nd. I just went in. I didn't know how many reruns or how many Netflix shows I could watch in a week. So, and I tend to like to work, so I just jumped in and we've been at it. But the pace is definitely slower, which is fine. The problems at EREP, based on my last assignment, don't really compare to real problems, so that's kind of nice. Perspective is good, but we're really enjoying it. We have a really great staff there, generally a young staff, but very professional and very good at their job. So it's been fun to be around them. One of the first questions they asked coming in is, "What do we call you?" So I said, just call me Lloyd. And to encourage that, we created a mayor jar. So some people may be aware of
a swear jar.
Swear jars. We have just altered that a little bit. So if you call me Mayor, it costs them $1. If it call me Mayor Winnecke, it's $3. And if they call me Mayor Lloyd Winnecke, they're probably also really mad at me, but that costs $5, and we put that in a jar, and we have about $13 or $14 in there now, but at some point in the coming months, we'll do something fun with whatever money we accumulate, but it's going well.
I would think it would always follow you around, though. I mean,
yeah, it does, and that's fine, and people were being respectful.
I mean, because you were for, 8 years?
12 years, yeah.
And then, and you were good at it, so
well,
you had a good reputation, so.
I'm sure I'll be called that a lot, and as long as people don't call me any worse, I'm fine with that.
But then think about how, once you're a president, you're always a president. Yeah. They always call them president, and I think probably people maybe think the same thing about mayors.
Yeah, and I think that's I appreciate the respect people are showing, and it is. I was in it for 12 years, and that's a long time to do any job, but much less one of that. With that much stress associated with it.
Well, and even before that, I mean, because you and I know each other from news, and that was stressful. I mean, that had a lot of stress. It's such immediate deadlines is one thing I've told people, that it's nothing like other jobs.
And the mayor's office is sort of like that. I mean, things. I mean, you have your day lined out on your calendar, and then like 4 things happen that you have to react to that you hadn't even thought about. And you have to react in the moment, and you have to respond accurately with whatever you're going to do, and timely. So there is stress to it that people probably don't appreciate. I did tell Mayor Terry that I think one of the greatest challenges she had would be the challenge I had, and that's just time management. I mean, you have to carve out time just to be at your desk and think about things you need to do or projects you need to work on how to refine a vision for a project or how to build relationships. All that takes time, but everyone's tugging at you.
Right.
You know, can you come to my ribbon cutting, or can you come to speak to my class? Both of which are important things that a mayor should do, but they're not exclusive things that a mayor should do.
And you may need to pull out the fire extinguisher to put out the big fire instead of what was on the to-do list. So,
Exactly, because let's face it, there are 1,300 employees the city has. So you constantly have some sort of HR issue that is elevated to the mayor's office. So you have to react to that, and typically those are pretty timely.
Right.
But time management is a big thing, and so I'm not having that difficulty now. I can usually get to my Wordle assignment by about 11 a.m.
Was it a tough choice at all to step away from that, or
You know,
just time?
yes and no. Carol said that she'd be all in for a fourth run and a fourth term if I wanted to do it, and I just kept thinking about it. And Carol would keep saying, "Okay, hey, you know, you have to decide here. We're getting, it's getting closer and closer." And I said, "I know, I'm thinking about it." And one day, it just hit me. I mean, literally, I was at my desk. Nothing bad happened. It just kind of came upon me, and I came home that night, or went home that night, and said, "Hey, I'm not going to run again." And I think I surprised her. It might have surprised me a little bit too, honestly. But it was time. 12 years is a lot, and I'm really proud of the collaboration that we helped create around the community. Really proud of the just sort of the pride in the community that I think has increased, and proud of all the projects that we were able to champion with a lot of help. I mean, a mayor doesn't do all that stuff by themselves, so
Right.
it takes all kinds of people and all kinds of collaboration, and that.
In the backing of the community.
Yeah, I mean, when you're elected, you've built up political capital, and then you're going to go out and spend that capital as you lay out your vision and execute on your vision, and as you come up with new ideas that maybe people hadn't considered before. So then you spend it, then you build it back. And
Right.
Mayor Weinsaffel told me one time that. And it was really sage advice, you need to take some political risk or nothing happens. And I think we, over 12 years, took our share of political risk, but I think the community and the region have benefited.
Well, I heard you saying, I think a lot of people assume you were retiring when you left.
Right.
And I remember hearing you say, "I'm too young to retire," which I feel the same way about myself. I quit my job. I didn't retire, but talk about, don't you think it's important to keep being productive? And not
Yes.
everybody's that way, but I feel that way.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of things I stopped doing when I took office just because of the demands of time. I stopped walking, and I stopped working out, and then so probably almost 2 years ago, I started walking again. Since I've been out of office, I've started Pilates, really with a goal to be active, and not just physically, but mentally. I joked about when I do Wordle. I do Wordle every day, and I do connections every day just to try and keep my brain as sharp as it can be, whatever that might be. But I just feel driven to do stuff, and I'm not at the age where I could just watch Netflix all day.
Right. I'm always looking for the next challenge.
Yeah.
I think that's how you are
Yeah.
too. So what made you, or what guided you toward EREP?
Yeah, it's really Tara Barney, who was the CEO before I came in. It was her idea. She and I had a standing monthly meeting. And even though I was on the EREP board, but we met every month just one-on-one to really make sure I was up to speed on all the things that she thought I needed to be up to speed on. And after I made my announcement, she was sitting in my office, and she goes, "So what are you going to do when you're done in here?" I said, "I have no idea." And I really did not. And she goes, "Well, I'm thinking that I want to retire about the time you're done. I think it would be grand if you," I'm like, wow, I'd never, and it's honestly, I had not considered it at all. And then I started talking to other board members, I started talking to other business leaders, and decided, it seemed like a really natural transition. As Carol says, it's like being mayor, but without the potholes and the snowplows, which is true. But the work is natural, it's regional in nature. over 12 years, we spent a lot of time, and we're really intentional about building relationships in Princeton and Mount Vernon and Boonville and Oakland City and Newburgh and Henderson. And so it just seems like a natural evolution for me to come in and go, okay, I'm going to lead the combined chamber and regional economic development organization, so I can build on those relationships. So I'm fairly familiar with most of the work, although I'm still learning sort of what happens every day, every hour in the office, but that's coming along. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a great team. Tara did a phenomenal job of recruiting good people. There was a little turnover toward the end of last year, just people had really good opportunities, so we've been able to backfill those with really strong people. Josh Armstrong leads our economic development efforts. We were able to recruit Justin Grainert back to Evansville. Many people may remember him from his days at the previous Chamber of Commerce. He had been in Chattanooga as the Director of Public Policy for the Chattanooga Chamber. He's back and started a week after I did as the Chief Strategy Officer for the organization. So we've built a really good team. They're very focused on trying to improve quality of life, grow population, and really advance what everybody collectively wants to do.
Well, and that was what I was going to ask is, what is the mission? What is the goal of EREP? I mean, what are you trying to do?
EREP's trying to do a lot, but we're, I think you can look at, first I think you need to think of it as the combined Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Organization. So on one side of the house, we have traditional chamber functions, roughly 1,400 businesses that are, quote, sort of chamber members. So we're helping represent their interest, and we're also being advocates for public policy that are encouraging to businesses and also are encouraging to local communities that allow them to have tools to grow and become more vibrant and improve quality of place, et cetera. Then on what I would call we have a whole team on sports. So the Sports Commission, the Evansville Regional Sports Commission. Brandon McClish leads this group. So think Ohio Valley Conference men's and women's basketball tournaments that we were able to get from Nashville 5 years ago. They're here for another 3 years. The NCAA Division II Elite Eight, all that rolls up under Brandon and his effort and the EREP umbrella. We have a whole talent EVV initiative. So talent EVV is really the regional transformative plan that the region's adopted to try and grow population, reduce poverty, improve health outcomes, and really create a better quality of place around the region. And then economic development, so traditional economic development. When I left the office today, Josh Armstrong was working on an opportunity for a company that may want to come here. So working on bids and working with the state of Indiana. So a lot goes on, but I think if you had to boil it down to one sentence or a couple of sentences, EREP is really focused on helping improve the vibrancy of the region and quality of life in the region. And a lot of things roll up under vibrancy.
How long has it been around?
So EREP is just a couple of years old.
Right.
A couple of years ago, the Chamber of Commerce, the Growth Alliance for Growth for Greater Evansville, or GAGE, and the Economic Development Coalition of Southwest Indiana, all were doing similar work. So those organizations merged and became the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership.
Okay, so it is new.
It is new, yes.
Is it something that they do in other areas that you know of?
Yeah, so it's really interesting in doing research when the community board members who were on the planning committee for the merger were looking at, how we structure this. Different parts of the country do it differently. Some were exactly the way EREP is structured, and others are not. Every community does it differently. I would say, based on my observations, it's based a lot on the goals of each region and sort of the level of collaboration. There's a really high level of collaboration here in our region, probably higher than most parts of the country, I'd say. Yeah.
So how is that funded? I mean, who approved this? How did it?
Well, the boards of those three organizations
Okay.
approved the merger. There were 120 votes, board members that voted to approve it, or so, 119 maybe. And so it's funded through a variety of different ways. So the 1,400 organizations that are business members or businesses, as in it was typical, so that's one funding stream.
Okay.
We get a lot of funding from the private sector. Businesses beyond their membership in the organization invest in our impact work. How can we, the work we're doing every day to improve quality of life and the economic development work, how can we do that in a really meaningful way? So that's one funding stream, and we have public sources too. The City of Evansville's an investor, Vanderbilt County, Posey County, all the counties, the four counties all participate. So there are a variety of funding streams.
Okay. That's why I didn't know if this was something the state just put
No.
together. Yeah. So let's talk about, we have an update on the READY grant that was already awarded. But what are some of the projects, or where are some of the projects with that?
So in oh my gosh, so this is 2024, about 2021 maybe, how time flies. The state approved $500 million for what's called READY 1.0, all about encouraging regional collaboration around Indiana and with the express purposes of trying to improve quality of life and produce better outcomes, better regions. Southwest Indiana was one of 5 communities that were awarded $50 million, the top grant. And so literally we reached out to everyone in the region to get basically a call for projects. One of the greatest needs in our community, in our region, and it's like this across Indiana, is housing. Mm-hmm. If you talk to every mayor in Indiana, I guarantee you housing would be in their top 3 needs in those communities. So the district up in Princeton was one of the first projects that was funded by READY, which really is helpful to that community, especially Toyota, as it continues to make investment there.
Sure.
The Toyota YMCA is going to be new in Princeton. So those are 2 projects that were funded with READY 1.0 dollars. The city of Evansville, or not the city, but in Evansville, we're using $1.2 million of that $50 million for a great riverfront study. We engaged a world-class consulting firm named Sasaki. Sasaki does river work and planning, architectural, landscaping, et cetera, all kinds of interesting collaborative partners that come to the table to help come up with really vibrant plans for communities. If you think about the Chicago River and the development along that river, Sasaki was an integral part of designing that, where some of it floods. When the water recedes, you still have an active place, an active destination. So Sasaki is currently looking at the Ohio riverfront from Mount Vernon to Newburgh, how to better activate 50 miles of riverfront in Mount Vernon, Evansville, and Newburgh to create a more vibrant region. We expect that they will have their first ideas to us in probably the second week of March, we believe. Okay. I've been told of a couple of the ideas they're considering, and some I would characterize as, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, and others are like, wow. And that's what the state wants. The state is encouraging wow ideas. They're not necessarily looking for one person's pet project, although some pet projects may get funded. It's really about casting a long-term vision to create a more vibrant, I've used that word a lot, I know, but that's really a key word, a more vibrant region. How we can grow our population base and be a better, more attractive site for talent. So that will come in March. Really excited about that work. That gets the entire team really jazzed.
And I would think that would be very exciting for people in the Evansville area, because we look over at Owensboro and they're riverfront, and it's pretty amazing, when if you're comparing, and I think maybe that lets people know that there are other things we could do. Maybe not like that and not exact, but
I think I think most people, when they think of the Evansville riverfront, think of roughly Court Street to Cherry, and that's the riverfront. But and just to brag a little bit about my last assignment, over the last 12 years, we extended that. If you think about Mickey's Kingdom,
right,
and now the skate park, and now the Cascade, so you really have the Cascade is where the water is returned after being treated into the Ohio River. It's returned cleaner than the way the city took it in. So you have great swings up there, so people can go up there and just watch the barges go by or just contemplate what's going on. Right next to it, you have the skate park, which is a really active spot for younger folks. And then you have Mickey's Kingdom, which is even for younger kids. So you have a multi-generational destination spot.
Right.
So the city was able to expand that. Now we have to figure out what we can do to make just as an active and just as an exciting area from Cherry to Court. And that's here. Sasaki is doing the equivalent in Mount Vernon and in Newburgh. A lot of opportunity. We hope and we anticipate that the plans that they come back with will provide development opportunities, the likes of which we've probably never been able to see before in our region.
Wow, and that's exciting stuff.
It is.
And the Ohio River really is a big deal. If we have people come from out of town, that's one of the places we take them, is to see the river, because not everybody has that. And so it does make sense to capitalize on it.
And it's a big river.
Yes.
A lot of communities may have a river, but they're not an Ohio River.
Right.
And they see that. We've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people who've relocated here thanks to Carol's work. And it's amazing the response, when they understand how sort of the magnitude of the river and and they're like, wow, that's really cool. So you're right, it's a great asset. And for years, we probably have just never figured out the
best way to do it.
The right recipe to make it what it could be. So we're eagerly awaiting Sasaki's work. And I'm sure there are going to be some things people are going to go, what? But that's okay. And
Sure.
and I think it's important to know that what Sasaki is going to come back with is this vision. I mean, it's a long term. It's not like, okay, what are we going to get done in 2 years?
Right.
This is probably a 20 to 25 year blueprint of what the region can do. Not only will Sasaki come back with ideas on how to activate this 50 miles of riverfront, but they're also going to come back with ideas of like how to fund these things. Which
is important.
It is important, and it's not. These ideas will not all be funded, and some of them maybe won't be funded at all by public dollars. Some will, who knows? But they will identify either state or federal dollars that could potentially be used for some of these projects. So, very exciting time. And we'll see what they come back with.
And then will you have that as a press conference where you'll announce these things?
There will
what do you have planned as far as?
Yeah, there will be a big public unveiling. We haven't figured out the exact mechanism by which they'll be announced, but there were hundreds of people that came to public meetings in Mount Vernon, Newburgh, and Evansville. And hundreds more participated online by participating in surveys. So this is not just the consultant has what they've seen in other communities. That's one part of it, but they're taking the feedback they've heard from residents in our region to put together this thoughtful plan.
Well, that's important.
It is.
And it's not just, people look at it as, these outsiders came in and they had no idea, they just knew there was a river, but they're actually paying attention to what people's concerns.
Yeah, again, I haven't seen the plan, but I would venture to say that most everything in there has been submitted by someone who came to a public meeting or participated in an online survey.
Oh, that's great. What kind of events are coming up? Do you have EREP has anything planned?
Well, we have a number of events right now. The events team, so Brandon McClish over sports and Kaylee Mays, who is our event director, are really working hard on nailing down all the details for the upcoming OVC basketball and Division II, the NCAA Division II Elite Eight. That takes a lot of bandwidth, candidly. We have our regular membership CNNs, where people get together and mingle and exchange business cards and just connect. Those are really important to our members, and it's a way for businesses to grow and make new connections. We'll have lunch with the Lieutenant Governor coming up this spring. We'll have lunch with the Governor in, I forget what month that is. Lunch with the mayors probably in August, and then our annual meeting and dinner will be in September. And that's a big fun event. We'll bring in a speaker that will be informative and entertaining. Don't know who it is yet, but that will be the goal.
And that's something the public will be invited to participate in, or?
Oh, they can.
Okay.
It's our annual meeting, so it's
Right.
there's some business.
Well, I mean, like the lunch with the mayors and stuff like that.
So people can buy a ticket and come to those events.
Okay. All right. Anything else that you want to add about what EREP's doing?
Well, we're really excited about Ready 2.0. We talked a lot about Ready 1.0.
That's right. We didn't get to Ready 2.
Yeah. So. And we'll be meeting with state officials in early February about our Ready 2.0 application, which is due in March. And then in April, they will make allocations for Ready 2.0. Unlike Ready 1.0, they are making $75 million available as the top allocation per region. We're applying for $75 million.
Sure.
So the state has their $500 million bucket, and thanks to a generous contribution and investment by the Lilly Foundation, another $250 million is being made available across the state to address blighted properties and redevelopment of those blighted properties. And then a portion of that $250 million will also be going toward arts and cultural projects. So the team's got a lot to do, and these are opportunities that the state, there aren't many states that do this.
Right.
In fact, I don't know of another state that's saying, okay, here's $500 million. Well,
that's exciting to know.
It's really exciting. And so,
it is.
So with this allocation, the Indiana legislature has, at the encouragement of the governor, has come up with $1 billion to invest in our regions to help grow our communities, and that's really important.
Good. Well, it sounds like you still have a lot on your plate, but
still a lot to do.
A little more low key, but thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thanks to our guests for joining us today to learn more about the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership. Thanks for watching Newsmakers.